Can anybody tell me the difference between a man and a dad? Nobody knows the difference between a man and a dad? Nobody. A child or a joke? I think it's the jokes. The dad jokes are the difference. Right? Okay, so, like I said, last week we were talking about manhood, biblical manhood, and this week we're honing in, we're kind of bringing our scope down to fatherhood. And you can't be a biblical father without being a biblical man. They go hand in hand. It's like rungs of a ladder, right? So today we're going to kind of explore what fatherhood looks like in culture a little bit, and then what it looks like in the physical and what it looks like in the spiritual. How many of you guys think fathers are portrayed in a good light in the media? No, right? They're generally portrayed as bumbling fools, idiots, right? They acquiesce to their wife if they even have that, or they just roll through life kind of just getting by. A few examples of that. If you guys remember, some of the crowd are old enough. Everybody Loves Raymond. It was a show for a long time, right? Ray Barone has no backbone, right? He has no will to stand up to either his wife or his mother. And that creates funny situations for a sitcom, right? For a comedy, that's great. But we tend to start to look at that, we see that example, and it becomes what we think fatherhood is. Not what it should be, but what it is. Another example is Homer Simpson. Right? The Simpsons is one of the longest running shows on television. It's supposed to be a cartoon for kids. It's really more a cartoon for adults. But Homer is a bumbling idiot. Every once in a while he has a flash of genius. And then you're not disappointed about 10 seconds later when he screws the whole thing up. Right? Same is true with Al Bundy from Married with Children. For anybody who remembers that from the late 90s, right? Don't look at that as your model, okay? Look at that as what not to do. The one thing that he had going for him is he was at least present. And we'll get into that in a minute. But the way media portrays all this helps to shape the way that Americans think of what fatherhood is, how fathers are supposed to act, and what they do. And it creates a negative image in our head for even the fathers who are in the home. Right? That's the whole point of media, is to create these things, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. That's what media does. So one of the things that we need to understand is that not only is that a bad example, but we have to combat that in our own psyche and in that of the world around us if we want to be a good father. In order to do that, there are a few different things that we have to do. Well, let's talk about the necessity first. So, since about the 70s, with the Johnson administration and the increase in the welfare state, the government has subsidized fathers out of the home, right? They give a stipend for the absence of the father in a way that makes it seem like it's okay, but it's really not. Right? It incentivizes broken relationships by allowing monetary gain or monetary gain for each child that's in the home. There's no reason to keep the father there. The government has become the daddy in many ways. And the problem with that is, one, it's not biblical, but two, it creates relationship problems. For boys, that manifests in a couple different ways. And one of those is that a boy is just wild, right? My own son, you guys probably see him running around every once in a while. He can be pretty wild. I've worked with boys for a long time in another program, and you have to rein him in. You got to give them clear boundaries. They have to understand how far they can go and what those boundaries entail, and then what happens if they cross those boundaries, right? If there's no strong male figure in the home, it's very hard for a woman to set those boundaries and keep them it becomes exhausting, right?